Welcome in, everyone, to the Football Addicts Anonymous podcast. Another Tuesday show, working around our summer schedules here. So, but great to be back. How are you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great, my man. How are you?
Living the dream, you know. But we have the final regular season week 10 of the USFL to recap. We'll preview the two playoff games coming up this weekend, and then we got some USFL news, bunch of NFL news, stuff's been going down, and then we'll finish off continuing our 8th round with the AFC North. So I thought before we get into the games, I thought this weekend was pretty good. Last week of the regular season, last week for half of the league teams, their players to make a statement to the NFL teams for this coming season. There's a bunch of guys that did, that's for sure. So we will get into it here. First off, on Saturday, Generals 26-23 win against the Stars. They finish up at 9-1. Playoff preview like we talked about last week. And it was a good one. It was a very good game. Case Cookus, hard to complain about his stats. Not a great completion percentage, but, not terrible. And the issue is he didn't get help from the ground game. Matt Colburn, only 39 yards on 10 carries. So that was probably the biggest issue. But Bug Howard had a great day. 5 for 101 for the Stars tight end there off 6 targets. But Louis Perez, the two quarterbacks for the Generals, great games by them. Louis Perez, pushing 80% completion, 3 touchdowns. Barely any yards, though. I know Chris, if he were here today, he would probably be looking at that, the completions to the yards ratio. But, it was a great game. And the Generals now have some momentum heading into this rematch here coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about my Generals prediction as we're heading into the playoffs here.
Yeah, and I believe this was the Stars had a chance at the end. They scored a touchdown, and then they missed the 3-point conversion. Case Cookus got picked off on 3-point conversion. But then they come around. They converted the alternative kickoff, 4th and 12 from your own 33-yard line. It fell incomplete, but there was an illegal use of hands on a General's corner. I believe his first name's David. I might be wrong, but Rivers, the corner for New Jersey, illegal use of hands to the face, 5 yards, automatic first down. So they converted that 4th and 12 there. And then they really didn't get far. They got to they got to the Jersey 35 with 109 left. And then Cookus got pressured, threw a deep ball. Shalom Luani picked him off. So it was a good game, though, like I've been saying. Defensively, I am going with Shalom Luani. He's been great all year for the Generals. 6 tackles, 5 of them solo, a pick, and 3 pass deflections. Also got a shout-out.
That's a really good stat line from Shalom.
You also got a shout-out Trey Williams. He carries 114 yards and a touchdown. Most of that coming on a 61 score. Yes, 61-yard touchdown run. The Generals covered -2.5 over 41.5. Stallions getting it done. They go to 9-1. Another close one. Saturday was a really, really good day for the two games we had. 21-18 win over the Bandits. I was disappointed. Tampa's my team. I wanted them to get to 500, end on a good note. Couldn't get it done. Birmingham's defense was too good. This is really defense all day in this game. It came down to the end, though. Jordan Ta'amu drove him down to the Birmingham 49, and then they couldn't convert a 4th and 11. So they got close to tying it. Could not get it done. I believe this was the game where, let me make sure. Yeah, this was the game. This should have been tied. This should have more than likely went to overtime. Jordan Ta'amu had a wide open Derek Dillon in the back of the end zone for a 3-point conversion, and he got the ball to him, but Dillon just lost all spatial awareness, didn't get his feet down on the back line. So that's why this was a 3-point game. But Jordan Ta'amu finishes up. He was your USFL passing yards leader. He ended 2014 passing yards. So a little over 200 yards per game, which isn't terrible. It's not, the NFL numbers, but still, in the first season where guys were trying to get going, I thought it was pretty good. And Magoo has been pretty decent for the Stallions as of late. Now, the Stallions did lose the turnover battle. They lost 4-2, I believe, was the turnovers in this one. But it didn't matter. Their defense is good enough at the end. Got it done. But I think Tampa's big issue, I feel like I've said this every single week we talk about the Bandits. They can't run the ball. Jordan Thompson was once again the leading rusher for the team. And they cannot run the ball. So Todd Haley's got to figure that out for next season. We'll see what they do spring 2023. But yeah, even though Dillon didn't get the feed in there, he did have a great game. Otherwise, 4 for 94, a touchdown. Most of that, though, just like I said, Trey Williams had a 61-yarder last game. Derek Dillon caught the longest touchdown pass of the season, 75 yards from Jordan Ta'amu. Couple guys we haven't seen on the stat sheet this season. Sage Surratt for the Stallions, 3 for 60. He was their leading receiver in this one, off 5 targets. And then Hassis Dubois, 4 for 36 on 8 targets for the Bandits in this game as well. Rashard Davis chipped in a 74-yard punt return touchdown, the second one of the season. In terms of punt return touchdowns. And then the stats, man, the defense, Anthony Butler put in a game for Tampa Bay. 15 tackles, 11 of them solos, a tackle for loss, a pick, and a pass deflection.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing Sage Surratt's name there, because it wasn't too long ago that I remember seeing him in the draft pool. I was surprised when he went undrafted. And I think it's really interesting that now he's listed at tight end. When he's coming out, he was, trying out as a wide receiver.
Yeah, I know that that was reported that he was switching to tight end when he first went undrafted. I don't remember who he signed with initially. I believe it was Washington. I might have been wrong. I might be wrong, but that sounds like it's right.
Hmm.
But yeah, I knew he was switching to tight end, but yeah, first time on the board for us, anyways. The Bandits did cover though, plus 3.5. Get the hook there, and then under 41.5. By a couple. Now, these two games were good, but this game right here, the first game on Father's Day, Sunday, was the only game that actually mattered this weekend. Because, as Moose Johnson, who is the executive vice president of football operations for the USFL, he put out a statement. This game, the winner got the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 USFL draft, not the loser. The team with the worst record will not draft first. It's the team that wins the game of the teams with the worst 2 records. So the Panthers got it done, and Paxton Lynch looked like a freaking Pro Bowler. I mean, he was fantastic in this game. 73%, 275, 3 touchdowns. He threw 1 pick, but that's besides the point. Yeah, Paxton was absolutely outstanding. And that's my takeaway from this game is Paxton Lynch.
Elway's going to bring him back. He's going to find a way to keep him on the roster.
But yeah, the Pittsburgh Maulers continue to be just absolutely terrible. I don't even know if they're playing if Garrett Groshek, your boy's on the team anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough.
But yeah, again, the team that set out to run the ball from the beginning of the season, Kirby Wilson's offense, was not able to the entire season. I think it's partly because of who they had running it, and I think it's partly because they probably didn't draft good enough offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, James Gilbert, who we haven't seen yet this season for Pittsburgh, he was the leading rusher for them on the day, 26 yards on 11 carries, 2.4 per. I mean, Michigan couldn't run it very much either, but at least Stevie Scott got over 4 yards per carry, pushing 4.5. He also did a lot of damage in the receiving game, 3 receptions, 66 yards for Stevie Scott. Roland Rivers had a pretty decent day. Vad Lee wasn't that good anyways. But Roland Rivers was pretty good. And I said that before. I thought Rivers really gave them the best chance after, Josh Love flamed out with them early on in the season. And then they had Vad Lee they picked up. He wasn't that great. But I thought Roland Rivers was pretty good. Delvin Hardaway for the Maulers, 6 for 100 on 9 targets here. Had a bunch of guys score touchdowns. Lance Lenore scoring one. Marcus Ball scored a touchdown. So did Matt Sabert here. 2 guys we haven't heard of this season. And then defensively, a lot of stats here. But I have to go with the touchdown. I'm impartial to defensive touchdowns. Safety Corey Rahman for the Panthers, 5 tackles, 3 of them solos, and a 63-yard fumble returned for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's the Maulers just never really put it together, and it feels like their identity, was kind of pounding the rock. But I mean, when you can't pound the rock, I always think that like the mark of a good coaching staff is like, understanding your personnel a little bit and like being adaptable. At some point you just gotta abandon ship a little bit. And as much as I love my boy Garrett Groshek, by his like last 2 seasons at Wisconsin, I mean, he was in like a hybrid fullback role. Like they never really used him as a feature back. So yeah.
He's definitely fullback.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's how you end up 1-9.
Well, and it never seemed like Pittsburgh put together a decent roster. I can't really remember all the way back to when we were previewing week 1. But I mean, they have some guys. Defensively, especially, they have some players. You see Chiava Tazzino, he was great for them all season. Carlo Kemp as well, very good for them. Blaze Aldridge getting on the stat sheet for the first time this season, I believe, for us. But yeah, I really offensively, it felt like Bailey Gaither was their only real star, and he's not even on here. So the Panthers covered -2.5 over 42.5 easily. And like I said, they claimed the number 1 overall pick in the 2023 USFL draft. It's going to be interesting to see how they draft going forward and who they draft, because it's like, when is their draft too? That's a question mark.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to draft players that are coming out, because why would they go to you when they're coming to the NFL potentially?
Right. I feel like there'll be major players in, I guess you can't really say undrafted free agents, because those guys would much rather just sign on to a team, even if it's practice squad. Yeah, I don't know. Because wasn't it for their draft this year? Didn't they also do it kind of weird where like one round was like one position?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more standard going forward.
Okay.
It's like, we're drafting whoever we want.
Mm.
I don't know if it's going to be like the NFL draft where you have to apply. I would think not. But I think it's going to be closer to what we see the CFL do, because they draft players that are not really on the NFL's radar. So it's tough. You gotta scout harder and scout, more closely to teams and look at players that people aren't looking at. So
maybe we got to slide in the DMs of the Maulers and the Panthers. See if they need any scouts.
Yeah. I think Pittsburgh will definitely need some. All right. Last game here. A shocker. The only upset of the weekend, which I was disappointed about because I had money on it. The Gamblers, 22-3 over the Breakers. Gamblers, they end the season 2-game win streak against 2 playoff teams. Beat the Stallions last week, beat the Breakers this week. Granted, this comes with the asterisks. They didn't play anyone. The Breakers played 0 people. That's why there's a million different new names that we haven't seen on here, because the Breakers rested most of their guys, including the number 1 player for the Breakers. Their quarterback, Kyle Sloter, did not play in this game. I believe he was dealing with some injury issues as well, but they just didn't want him to get banged up any more than he already was going into next week. But Kenji Bahar, it was just terrible. There was no offense in this game. This game should have ended 6-3. But we had 2 touchdowns, 1 on defense, 1 on special teams for Houston. That was the difference. Shea Patterson looked terrible. Zach Smith looked terrible. Smith got the start, threw 2 picks, and then Larry Fedora was like, "Nope, Shea, you're in." So Kenji Bahar was bad. LeMay was pretty good, I guess, for Houston. New Orleans couldn't run the ball at all, and I got to the point I was watching the game. I'm like, why are you even running it still? You haven't been effective all game. Just throw the ball. I know you probably can't protect Shea Patterson because he was getting pounded a lot in the game too. But just throw it. Do some screens or something. But yeah, they couldn't run the ball at all. And then, the receiver stats are just terrible. Redding and Johnny Dixon were the leading receivers. Now, Dixon was not the leading receiver. He was just the leading wide receiver. I like to put him. The leading receiver in the game for the Breakers was Anthony Jones there. 3 receptions for 16 yards for the running back. There was another running back that had more yards than Johnny Dixon as well. I believe 14 receiving yards was the next guy. But Dixon, the first wide receiver or tight end on the receiving yardage list. And yeah, defensively, you see a lot of numbers here. Going to shout out 3 guys, 3 at the bottom. Donald Payne. I mean, he's making an NFL roster. Most definitely. Leading tackler on the season for the USFL. He put up just crazy numbers. 117 tackles in 10 games. That's ridiculous. 11.7 tackles per game. That's crazy.
That's good in a 17-game season.
Yeah. But yeah, 9 tackles, 7 solos, tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and a 12-yard pick 6. I'm going to skip the next guy. We'll come back to him. And then defensive back Jeremiah Johnson, who I don't think we've seen before on the stats. He had 1 tackle, a pass deflection, a pick, but he also had a 77-yard blocked field goal returned for a touchdown. So, yeah, there was that. And then defensive end Chris Odom. This is another guy that's going to get a shot with the NFL team. 5 tackles, 2 of them solos, 1.5 sacks, a tackle for loss, and a block. He blocked that field goal. That was his 4th block of the season. 4 blocks in 10 games. That is ridiculous. I mean, talk about making your name on special teams. That's how you make an NFL roster right there.
Yep.
But yeah, that is my spiel on this game anyways. If you had anything else, Logan.
No, I think that, and I think we'll get into this a little bit with the playoff previews, but I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, I get the strategy if your quarterback's banged up anyways, and you're not going to play him, so you probably won't win. So it may be better to just sit your guys. But this always comes up in the NFL, when teams have already clinched their spots in the playoffs, week 17, sit your guys, don't sit your guys. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that talk goes on here with the Breakers, especially considering who they're facing in the next round here.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have wanted to play to win, to get that momentum going into face the Stallions, the best team all season. So before we get into the USFL playoff preview here, I want to mention that all players on non-playoff teams are eligible now. Right after the last game on Sunday, finished this game, all non-playoff team players eligible to sign with any NFL teams. I haven't heard of any yet. I mean, we're only 2 days out from the season ending, so we'll see if any of these non-playoff teams players get picked up or not. And like I said, so let's go over the stat leaders that ended the regular season here. So like I said, Jordan Ta'amu, we'll go top 5 at each, I guess, real quick, and just highlight the non-playoff guys that have a chance of getting signed right now. Jordan Ta'amu, like I said, I think he struggled a little bit this season. 2014 passing yards. He was 7th in completion percentage, only 57%. So it wasn't that great. But 2014 passing yards, led the league in touchdowns, 14 passing touchdowns. But he also led the league in picks with 12. So there's that. But I think he's good enough. I think he got a chance prior. I think he signed with someone after his XFL days with the St. Louis Battlehawks. I think he signed with someone. I believe it was the Chiefs.
Yeah, it was the Chiefs.
Wasn't able to make it there, but so yeah, we have Kyle Sloter, who will play in the playoffs, 1,798 passing yards. Jamar Smith, we'll see in the playoffs, 1,573. Case Cookus, we will see in the playoffs, 1,334. And then Louis Perez, 1,200 passing yards as well, who we will see in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, 4 of the top 5 we'll see in the playoffs. Jordan Ta'amu, the only one in the top 5 passing yards we'll be looking at to see if he signs anywhere. That is the same with passing touchdowns, except that Clayton Thorson was tied for 3rd at 10 touchdowns. So I think he is a guy that we could see. I thought he was pretty good early, got injured, never came back. They continued to start Kenji Bahar. So I think Clayton Thorson is a guy we could see back in the NFL. Been in the NFL for a couple years there with the Giants and Eagles and Cowboys. Okay. And then rushing yards, Jordan Ellis of the Breakers. He finished the season as your rushing yards leader, 596 rushing yards. Trey Williams for the Generals, 579. Darius Victor, also with the Generals, 577. Very close race there between those two, with the best rushing team in the USFL, as we know. Reggie Corbin is a guy that I will think will get picked up by someone that needs running back depth. 519 for him for the Panthers this season. Mark Thompson, I'm not sure what happened to Mark Thompson. I would have to think he got injured with the Gamblers because 463 in 9 games. Reggie Corbin only played 8 for the Panthers there. So 519 in 8 games is pretty good for him. But yeah, Mark Thompson, not only 9 games played, 463 though. He finished 5th as your rushing yards top 5 there. Rushing touchdowns wise, I believe it's a bunch of the same guys. Darius Victor finished the season 9 rushing touchdowns at the top. Matt Colburn, 8 with Philadelphia. 3rd place was CJ Marable, who we'll see in the playoffs with the Stallions. He finished with 5. And then 2 guys tied for 4. Jordan Ellis with the Breakers with 4. And actually the quarterback, DeAndre Johnson for the Generals, finished tied for 4th in rushing touchdowns with 4 as well. Another quarterback. Yeah, another.
The Generals have like 3 dudes who can like be like super good rushers.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. There was another quarterback that tied for 6th there, the next place down, with 3 rushing touchdowns. Alex Magoo, 3 rushing touchdowns, tied for 6th. So I just want to check this real quick because it's interesting that they put this category on the stats. They have 100 plus rushing games, and that is not right. I don't know why they even put that when they're. I know there was definitely a couple guys that had 100 plus yards rushing, like we saw Trey Williams had one. So I don't know why they put that category on there, Fox Sports, and you don't fill it up. But anyways, receiving yards leader, crazy. This guy came on, I feel like the last maybe 3-4 weeks, probably. Kavonte Turpin. He led the league in receiving yards, 540 For Turpin and the Generals. Lance Lenore for the Panthers, 484. Marlon Williams, who we'll see in the playoffs with the Stallions, 474 in 9 games. Victor Bolden, also with the Stallions, 415 in 9 games. And then to finish it up, the Breakers, Jonathan Adams, 406, finishing 5th there. Those were the only guys with over 400 yards receiving this season. So Lance Lenore, the only guy able to get signed right now. I don't know. I don't know what his prospects are. I forgot to say the rushing yard. Oh no, I did say Reggie Corbin, I think, should get signed. Matt Colburn, I'm not so sure. He scored, but wasn't in the top 5 in rushing. So he was, I believe he was 6th, though. He was close. Receiving touchdowns. Let's see who we had at the top of that category. Isaiah Zuber for the Gamblers, 5 touchdowns alone at the top in 9 games. Then we had a boatload of guys with 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 6 guys tie for second place with 4 receiving touchdowns. Bug Howard with the Stars, who scored this, didn't score this past weekend, but had a 100-yard game. Johnny Dixon, receiver for the Breakers. Cavante Turpin, like I said, for the Generals. Bailey Gaither with the Maulers. He only played 7 games, scored 4 touchdowns. Derek Dillon with the Bandits. And Marlon Williams with the Stallions in 9 games, scoring 4 times. So Zuber, he was, I don't know. I feel like his stock took a downward turn when Thorson went down, and he kept going, but he wasn't the same without Clayton Thorson. Howard, I thought, was pretty decent. He wasn't considered the number 1 tight end in the league, but maybe he was, 2 or 3. And then other non-playoff, Bailey Gaither. Like I said, I love Bailey Gaither. I don't know why. Bailey Gaither, I don't know. He has a great name, and I thought he was pretty good in the 7 games we saw him. And then finally, Derek Dillon, pretty decent receiver. I think you could see him slide into some team if they need depth, 5th or 6th guy on the roster. As far as, do we want to talk kickers? Because we can. There's only one guy. There's only one dude. There's only one guy. Brandon Aubrey. I mean, what a whirlwind for him, playing a whole season. I mean, he's not even eligible to get signed yet because he plays for the Stallions. But, I mean, he paced the field easily in kicking points. 76 points this season. I don't know what, on average, how many points kickers score in a game, but I would have to think that Brandon Aubrey scoring a touchdown by himself every game is pretty good when you're talking about a kicker. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Never played football. Never played professional football ever. Comes in from the MLS and just knocking them through left and right. Nick Vogel for the Gamblers. He was second with 66 points. Ramiz Ahmed, I think, should get a shot somewhere. The long-range bomber, Ramiz Ahmed, was 49 points for him. Luis Aguilar for the Stars, 43. And then 3 guys tied for 5th there. Tyler Rausa with the Bandits, 42. Taylor Bertolette with the Breakers, 42. And Cole Murphy with the Panthers, 42 points. But yeah, I think Ahmed, out of the non-playoff guys, Ahmed will get a shot definitely. And then whenever the Stallion season is over, Brandon Aubrey most definitely deserves a shot at the NFL level. I don't really put too much stock into kick and punt return yards. I don't know if you do.
No. I mean, unless like one guy really stands out, in which case, obviously he will be potentially carve out a role for himself. But
yeah, we had two guys over 700 yards on 25 and 26 returns, kick return wise. Maurice Alexander, wide receiver for the Stars, 787 kick return yards, 25 returns. That puts him at 31 and a half average. So that paced the field, 31 and a half. And then Cam Eccles, looper, wide receiver for the Generals, 748 on 26 kick returns, 28.8. That was a far and away second, 4 yards better than the next guy. So I don't really know what the average is for the NFL. I would have to think that, 20 to 21 to 25 because of the moved up kick spot and the fact that you get touchbacks at the 25-yard line now on kickoffs.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of punt returns, Rashard Davis was the guy. 224 for the Bandits on 22 punt returns, only 10.2 average, so not the greatest. He had the most returns by just one, though. Victor Bolden was second with 21 returns anyways, but Rashard Davis had 50 more yards of punt return than Davis did, or Bolden, I mean. So, I don't know. I would probably say the guy to look at there is Kavontae Turpin. 12 punt returns, 184 yards, 15.3 average. Granted, he had a return touchdown. So did Rashard Davis, though. So I guess if you take that out, Turpin's definitely your guy. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I think punt returns are a lot harder to look at than kick returns there. No one had a kick return touchdown. We didn't see one of those. We did have 2 punt return touchdowns, like I said, Rashard Davis and Kavontae Turpin. Davis was 74 yards, Turpin 71. Your interception leader by 2, Channing Stribling, corner for the Stars. I think he'll get a shot, definitely. When you get 7 interceptions in 10 games, pretty decent.
Yeah, that'll play.
Shalom Luani for the Generals, he ended up with 5. Will Likely with the Gamblers, a corner, he had 4. And then Donald Payne, who we talked about with the Gamblers, linebacker, he had 3. And then a bunch of guys had 2. Let's see. Touchdowns wise, though, Donald Payne led the way with 2 pick sixes. He was also your tackles leader. Like I said, 117. That was 27 more combined tackles than the next guy. Frank Ginda was your second place guy with 90 tackles for the Michigan Panthers. 2 guys tied for third with 86. Gerard Fernandez with the Breakers and Chiava Tizzino with the Maulers. And then in 5th place, also with the Gamblers, Reggie Northrup, 81 tackles. It looks even worse for the rest of the field and better for Donald Payne when you look at solo tackles. 71 solo tackles. And that was 15 more than the next guy. Chiava Tizzino, second place with 56 solos. So, yeah, he can do it by himself if he needs to. And then your leading sacker, Chris Odom. What a season for him. We just talked about him. 12 and a half sacks this season. That's good in a regular NFL season.
Yep. That's more than good, yeah.
Yeah. He got it done. Like I said, also can block field goals with 4. Adam Rodriguez for the Stars. He was in second place with 9, also a very good number. DeMarquise Gates with the Stallions, 6.5 in third place. My guy Davin Bellamy with the Breakers, 5.5. I was disappointed with him. Came out, he had 3 sacks in week 1. I believe it was. Maybe it was week 2. But regardless, he had 3 sacks in one game early on and only has 2.5 the rest of the season. That's very disappointing on his end. And then Carlo Kemp with the Maulers and Reggie Howard Jr. with the Breakers. They both tied for 5th with 5 sacks. Kemp also, he had 2 sacks in the regular season finale, 3 the rest of the season. So, but Odom and Rodriguez, those are the guys there. Odom's definitely going to get a chance somewhere. Your points leader was Jordan Ta'amu, who scored 90. All-purpose yards. I think this is better than looking at punt and kick return yards here. But your all-purpose yards leader, Victor Bolden, 1,209 all-purpose yards. That's 134.3 per game. Led the way. Actually did not lead the way. Well, he led the way with guys that played enough games. Technically, TJ Logan was the leader in all-purpose yards per game. He only played 2 games for the Breakers. 140.5 yards per game, though, for TJ Logan. Maurice Alexander with the Stars, 1,183. That's 118.5 per game. Trey Walker with the Maulers, 1,007 yards, 125.9 per game. Cavante Turpin, 921. That's 92.1. And then Reggie Corbin, 866. That's 108.3 yards per game. Yeah. Net average punting. We only had 10 punters. But Brandon Wright for the Bandits led the way, 41.1. Really, there were only 2 guys that really put up NFL level numbers. Brandon Wright and Matthew Carrizosa with the Panthers, 40.5 net punt average. That's really the only guys I can talk about because, like I said, 40 is like your bare minimum you want in the NFL. So, and yeah, then it's all the team stats. So, those are your stats leaders. Did I say the? I don't think I said the spread and the over/under of this game. The Gamblers plus 3.5 covered, under 41.5 easily. USFL playoff preview. So we have on Saturday in Canton, Ohio, the site of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, at Tom Benson Field, the 6-4 Philadelphia Stars against the 9-1 New Jersey Generals. The Generals are a 4.5-point favorite. The total is over under 47.5. Crazy big, I feel like, this game. But it could get there, possibly. For Philly scores 26.2 per game, but they give up 24.3. So I don't know. I think it's going to be the Generals. I would say, though, the Generals give up almost 200 passing yards per game. We've seen how good Case Cookus can be. I would just caution the Generals defense to play pass defense. Not worry as much about the run. I mean, they do have Matt Colburn, but he's not been that effective. 6th in rushing yards in the regular season, and they only average 103.4 per game. That is what I would caution the Generals. I am picking the Generals, though. I would say that they are on upset alert from the Stars, though.
I like it.
Uh, 3 p.m. on Fox. And then we have a Trace Atkins concert in the middle, which is going to be fun. I hope they keep the channel on so I can watch the Trace Atkins concert in between the games. That'd be cool. And then we get to the last game. The 6-4 New Orleans Breakers against the 9-1 Birmingham Stallions. The Stallions are a 5-point favorite, so it's pretty big spreads for playoff games. 5-point favorite for the Stallions. Over under is 44.5. And like you said, we'll see what the repercussions of sitting guys last week does to the Breakers, if they come out groggy or not. The stats are actually pretty even. The Fox Sports on the previews, they put out 6 categories of stats: points per game, pass yards, rush yards per game, and then opponents' points per game, opponents' pass rushing yards. It's 3-3. The Jersey Philly game was 4-2 to the Generals, but it's pretty close in terms of passing yards, points allowed. Those are the 2 that are really close. But I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this one?
You know, you put the Generals on upset watch in the other game. I'm going to put the Stallions on upset watch here, and I am going to go. We're going to shock the world, and we're going to go with the Breakers pulling it out over the Stallions. I just think that playoff time comes around, quarterback play matters a little bit more. Like the Breakers pull it out.
Yeah, I would definitely give the edge in quarterback play to the Breakers. Even if you combine Alex Magoo and Jamar Smith together for Birmingham, I think Sloter can get it done in that respect. But with it being so close, Birmingham it's the same way. Birmingham gives up more passing yards allowed by about 10 yards than the Breakers do. And I think I'm going to go with Birmingham. I'm just going to put the 2 best teams in the championship, be boring. But Birmingham, beside the blip against Houston 2 weeks ago, I don't think there was much stopping them. It's going to be interesting to watch, though, this game. No home field advantage. There are going to be however many fans there are going to be. I think this game is going to be fun, too, because I don't know if they're allowing, I would think if you bought a playoff ticket, I just don't know how it's going to work with the concert being there, because it's
Mm.
like there are people in the stadium already.
Mm.
What if they don't have a concert? I don't know if they sell a ticket for game one, they sell tickets for the concerts, and they sell tickets for the last game, or if you buy one ticket, you get the concert in there, or if you buy one ticket, you get like everything that whole day.
Yeah. I feel like it's got to be packages, and I feel like there'd be two packages. One, you get all three, and then one, maybe you get to pick one of the games and the concert. That would be my guess.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking in this game. It's like, oh, maybe you'll have holdovers from the concert that will be there and watch the game after. So maybe there will be more people for this game than there will be the first game. But yeah, the first game at 3:00 on Fox, and then this game 8 p.m. on NBC. I'm going with the Generals Stallions. Logan's rolling Generals and Breakers. See who's right there. USFL news. We have the all USFL team for the first season back here. Quarterback, we just talked about him, Kyle Sloter of the Breakers. Running backs, Darius Victor for the Generals, Reggie Corbin for the Panthers. Wide receivers, Victor Bolden Jr. for the Stallions, and Cavante Turpin for the Generals. Tight end, Sal Cannella with the Breakers. Like I said, tight ends really weren't that big of a factor in the regular season there. Offensive tackle, Terry Poole of the Generals. Offensive guard, Cameron Hunt with the Stallions. Center, Jared Thomas with the Breakers. The other guard, Garrett McGinn, the Generals. And offensive tackle, Jaron Jones with the Bandits. Defensive end, Chris Odom with the Gamblers. D tackles, Reggie Howard Jr. of the Breakers and Toby Johnson of the Generals. Defensive end, Davin Bellamy of the Breakers. Linebackers, DeMarquise Gates with the Stallions. Donald Payne with the Gamblers and Gerard Fernandez with the Breakers. Corner, Channing Stribling of the Stars. Safeties, Shalom Luwani, the Generals. Bryce Tornadin with the Maulers. And the other corner, Will Likely with the Gamblers. So like I said, that's a pretty good list of players. Maybe we see all these guys get chances with NFL training camp teams here coming up in July. I think the strongest is definitely on defense. The linebackers specifically. Granted, I'm impartial to linebackers, considering that's where I played in high school, my final season. But yeah, DeMarquise Gates, Donald Payne, Gerard Fernandez, all fantastic. Like I said, Chris Odom, I think, deserves a shot. Davin Bellamy could. Stribling, Luwani, and Will Likely. I like all those three. I didn't see too much offensive line play. I didn't hone in on it too much. So I'm not too sure about those guys, but I would think the two Jersey guys, Terry Poole and Garrett McGinn, will get shots considering they were on the number one rushing attack. Ravens will probably look at those two guys. And then Turpin, he's small, 5'8", I believe. But he should be a gadget type guy. And then Reggie Corbin, Darius Victor, Kyle Sloter. I like all those guys there. Keep moving.
Looking at this list, is there anyone you feel like got snubbed or got left off?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think necessarily like I kind of mentioned about Davin Bellamy. Um, only 5.5 sacks after a 3 sack game early on in the season was disappointing, but I guess the voter, I don't really know who voted on this list. I don't know if it was just the players or if it was a combination of the players and other voters, but Adam Rodriguez finished second in sacks with 9. I felt like he deserved a chance. Other than that, I was kind of surprised Bryce Torneden made it for the Maulers. I don't know if that's what they were going for, was to get one player from each team at the very minimum, because they did that. They put Jaron Jones on for the Bandits. If they would have put 2 teams together, I would have kind of liked that better because you would have been able to see a lot more players. But with only one team, like, Jordan Thomas, like I said, I keep bringing him up, but passing yards leader, and he got over 2,000 in 10 games. So, yeah, I felt like the offense was kind of hit or miss. The running backs, though, was interesting. Darius Victor, he was good. He might not be the best player on his own team, though. Trey Williams, like I said, had more yards than him, but Victor scored more touchdowns. And Reggie Corbin scored a lot, only finished 4th in rushing yards. Like I said, I don't know what happened to Mark Thompson. I thought Mark Thompson would have been a great player on here for the Gamblers. And then receiving yards wise, Victor Bolden is a guy that I really didn't notice too much, but he had the stats to back it up. 4th in receiving yards. And he didn't score. He didn't score much. Did he score at all? Victor Bolden. I don't even know. Finished 3rd in receptions. He only scored 1 touchdown. That's my issue with Victor Bolden. Yeah, you're getting a lot of yards, but you can't score. Elliot Turpin scored 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the leading touchdown getter was Isaiah Zuber. So I would have liked him. If Bailey Gaither would have played all 10 games, I think he would have been a potential for this list. Derek Dillon I liked as well. But yeah. Most of the guys I like, though, especially the defensive guys. Okay. NFL news here. The key dates for the 2023 league year were announced. So February 21st through March 7th, that is your franchise and transition tag window. We have the new league year beginning on March 15th. Free agency begins March 15th, 4 p.m. Eastern 2023. And then the draft dates were announced April 27th through the 29th is your 2023 NFL draft held in Kansas City. That's going to be a party.
Yep. Love to see the Midwest get some love there.
Hey, we can make the drive down.
Yeah.
Okay. Some stuff here. I just call it stuff because I don't know what else to call it. The Commanders owner Dan Snyder. He declined an invitation to testify at the hearings tomorrow, June 22nd, congressional hearing. Topic is the Commanders essentially cooking the books and not and misrepresenting their official revenue numbers. So my thing is, why? Why would you possibly decline? Like, it just makes you look more guilty. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a tough ask to get in the mind of Dan Schneider, period. There's not much there's no guessing his motives for really anything. Decisions being made, and I just don't know how he's still been in the league this much. I mean, the Commanders have been kind of like a sideshow, like for the past 5 years now, maybe more.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I think this is finally, the third strike, though, because the minute you start messing with the league's money, that's kind of the.
Well, the next straw is just to get him out and then move him to St. Louis. But yeah, I mean, it's because Roger Goodell accepted. Roger Goodell is going to speak tomorrow at the congressional hearings. Because Roger has nothing to hide. He's not the one that fudged the numbers. So,
right.
I mean, he's going to be like, yeah, Dan Snyder sucks. And that's the hard thing. You need, I don't remember if it's unanimous or 3/4 vote to expel an owner,
mm-hmm.
force them to sell a team. I believe it's 3/4. But that's the thing, is there, 24 owners that are willing to put themselves out there. That's a lot of owners to take down another one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of these guys are buddy with each other. But I mean, at the same time, there's always protect the shield. And I mean, protect the shield is just, code for protect our money, protect our image, to protect our wallets. So, yeah, I mean, I think, buddy's all good until then you're hurting the league image, and then in turn hurting my finances. And then I think you're going to see him on the way out. There's just only so many times you can be in the headlines negatively to where it's like, all right, we gotta do something about it.
Well, I think it's funny because people have been calling for Dan Snyder to get nixed for years.
Yeah,
it hasn't happened. So we'll see if this is finally it or not. But we gotta wait. We'll see if there's anything that comes out from the hearings tomorrow. Also, other stuff. Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson's situation may have gotten a little bit clearer. I kept getting confused because it was the lawyer of the women, right, that put the statement out. Because some tweets I saw, they said Deshaun Watson's lawyer put this out. But then I was like, I read the statement and I was like, he's talking about the one woman as a hero and being the woman that propelled the entire 24 lawsuits together as a hero. And I was like, why would a defense lawyer say that about a plaintiff?
Yeah, right.
I kept getting confused on whose lawyer, but so we're saying the lawyer for the 24 women who were suing Deshaun Watson for sexual misconduct. 20 of the 24 women have now settled with Deshaun. Financial figures will not be released, they said. But they are going to continue to trial, I believe, with the other 4 women, including, like we said, like I mentioned, the woman who started it all. I don't have her name.
Ashley Solis, I think is her name. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. She is one of the 4 that will continue on with the trial process. But the NFL, they said in no way does this change Deshaun's situation in their eyes and what they are looking at as a potential suspension.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone on Twitter is a legal expert on this in their mind. I see a lot of people saying, he's innocent and that the fact that these women settled is like a money grab. But the way I see it, if this was about clearing his name, like you wouldn't settle.
Yeah.
Even in a civil trial, even if it's not, a criminal trial. So in my eyes, it's hush money. Like I try to put it in perspective. Like if you were accused of something by somebody and you knew you didn't do it and it was about clearing your name, you wouldn't settle,
Right.
You wouldn't pay money to that person to just end the legal battle. So I think that the NFL saying like this doesn't change a whole lot, I think is kind of par for the course. I don't think it should change a lot about how we view the fact that it's 24 women. Yeah, it's just it, and the fact that he's still practicing, and that we still haven't gotten any news of a suspension is just very interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that in terms of 20 of 24 settling, in my mind, that just says there wasn't enough evidence. That's in my mind, I'm thinking, how could you really have evidence depending on when some of these things occurred? Because I don't think I have ever heard of, or what was it was 66 over
66, yeah, over like a 2-year period, I think it was.
Okay, so that's not that far back, but still, as bad as what was reported that he did, how can you? Where could you get evidence? That's what I'm.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like it's hard to. It would be very hard to get that physical evidence specifically.
Right.
And that's what I think is why 20 of the 24 settled, because their lawyers are probably like, look, this is what we found in discovery,
right?
And without that hard evidence, it's going to be very difficult to win at trial. We should get our money while we can. So that's my thinking anyways of why they would settle.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, is like, there's so many levels to this from a legal perspective. And, legality and morality don't always coincide. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point to make. And like you said, like, sometimes you just don't have enough evidence, and even your testimony is, just not going to be enough. So I completely agree with all that. And just, I think kind of what I'd like to address is that you see a bunch of people on socials saying, like, innocent, like, what does innocent until proven guilty not exist anymore, stuff like that. And one, that doesn't really apply to here, and two, legality, legal courts, and the court of public opinion are two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is completely entitled to their own opinion of it. And it's just tough for me to think, 24 women. Like, that's just such an astronomical number to me. But yeah, I think it's like you said, I think it's as simple as kind of how you put it, and that it doesn't really change things. If you think Deshaun's innocent, you're going to continue to think he's innocent. If you think he's guilty, you're going to continue to think he's guilty. It's just interesting to see how the league is going to interpret it themselves.
Yeah, and that's the last thing I think we need to cover with this is I don't know anything about dates and what has happened in the legal process with this, but I know the courts move slow.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I do know. And I mean, I haven't actually gone looking for it, but if there is anywhere out there on when like a trial date is, if they're getting tried together, which I believe they wouldn't be because it's not a class action suit. So
right.
You're looking at 4 separate trials. So that could take a lot longer. I mean,
Yep.
that's why when you said about the NFL, like, how really can the NFL continue to wait?
Right.
Because if they wait till after each verdict is brought down, I mean, we're going to be halfway through the season.
Right.
So that's what I think the NFL needs to, for lack of better words, hurry up and get something out there before we're into training camp and preseason.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to Thursday night football. We got some clarity on the team, the pregame, halftime, and postgame team here. So, free agent corner Richard Sherman and quarterback Ryan Fitzpatrick, they officially signed deals with Amazon Prime Video, be a part of the TNF coverage. Those two are going to be joined with Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez. Like I said, pregame, halftime, and postgame shows for those three together. I would have to think there's a fourth member that will be added. There's always a non-football person in there that they
a mediator
to be the host of the show. Like we see with Rich Eisen. Colleen Wolfe is that person, or was that person last year on the Thursday night games. I would like to see Colleen back again. She's a Philly girl. So that's but yeah, I would think there'd be a fourth person. I think that's gonna be pretty good though. Sherm, Tony Gonzalez, and I mean Fitzy is just gonna be fantastic.
Yeah. I love that group. I love all three of those guys for like different reasons, which is why I think it's a great group. I love Tony Gonzalez he was on Fox, right? He's been doing it, so he's got some experience. Fitzy just has an amazing personality, and I think Sherman's going to bring that kind of authentic fire. And I mean, one of the great defensive minds in football, to be honest, one of the best cornerbacks of the last 12 years. So, yeah, I think that's a good squad.
I think Sherman's going to be like you said, fire. that I think of like MJD is a lot on NFL Network.
Yeah.
Except
Hey,
Stern's just
you
a
need one,
lot
dude.
taller.
Yep.
A lot taller.
You need at least one.
But yeah, that is your TNF crew there. And we already know the game broadcasters. Herbie and Al Michaels are your Thursday night color analysts. So that is quite a crew they have for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta wait till close to the season to get my membership.
Yeah. Well, and they gotta start putting some good games together for that Thursday night matchup.
Well, we have the schedule, don't we? I don't know what the
Yeah, we do. I just mean historically, Thursday night
Oh,
has not
yeah.
been not been a treasure
Product.
trove of good matchups.
Talking product. I got you.
Mm.
Okay. Next thing on the docket here, the Saints. We are in uni reveal season.
Mm-hmm.
So the Saints, they announced their first ever black helmet. Traditionally, they have worn the gold with the fleur-de-lis on it. But they will introduce a black helmet this year. And trying to get a picture here. Well, we'll get a couple pictures anyways. Here we'll show this one. So here it is. It's Cam Jordan's helmet. And as you can see, we have the black. I'll go to the side view first, I guess. So it's the same helmet. It's just flipped colors. It's black base with the. I don't know if you call it gold. It's more. It's like tan gold. I don't know. I don't know what the Saints' official colors are. Black and what? Because it's not like yellow gold like the Steelers call theirs gold. But I don't know. Whatever color, tan, gold, whatever it is. Yeah. So that's the initial look on the side there. And then I guess this one actually is pretty decent. I like the side view better though.
Yeah.
If I can find it again. Or the front and back, I mean. Yeah, so you look at in here, we have tiny little fleur-de-lis patterns. You get the numbers, and really that's all it is. It's just this like stripe kind of thing with the fleur-de-lis in there. That's all it is, and then they just flip the colors of the helmet and the logo. So it's really not that special, but I just don't know how it's gonna look.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they can't wear their black jerseys. I don't like the black helmet and black jersey. I just maybe it will look okay. I don't think it will look good though.
I kind of like it. Not gonna lie. I don't love the stripe, but I like the inverted colors. I think though, kind of like you said, I think you kind of have to like wait to see like how it looks on the field. Like I've come to learn that like as intricate as these jersey reveals kind of are, you don't really know until you see it on the field. Like when the Bengals released their new kind of look, I hated it, but then I saw it kind of on the field and it's a really nice clean look. So we'll see. But I tweeted out, I was like, the getting rid of the one helmet rule might be one of the best moves the NFL has done in like years, just for fun. Like it's just another added dimension that's gonna be good for the league. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hopefully see more of these kind of moves as the summer goes on.
Yeah, it was just weird because this is the first time I'm seeing this picture. All they released was there's like a 4 the 4 thing of helmets, and I was like, but most teams release, it with other stuff together. So, like we were talking about, you can see what it looks like. But yeah, they just released the helmet and nothing else. I mean, I like this from the back, but when I looked at this one, I didn't like it too much with the black and white. I think if they're gonna wear this, they should go with their gold jerseys that they have. Because I mean, when you look at this, like their normal jerseys with their throwback white ones, I think that looks clean. But I have a hard time seeing the black jersey, black helmet thing together and liking it. That's their normal look. So when you put this right there, I don't know. Maybe it'll look all right, but we'll have to wait and see when they debut it. And I'm not sure which games or how many either, because they put game with the S in parentheses, so it could be one game, could be more. The Browns announced some promotions. They promoted Glenn Cook and Catherine Raichie to assistant GM positions under Andrew Berry. Raichie is now the highest ranking female football executive. And she has been rising. She was with the Eagles before she came with Andrew Berry to the Browns. And yeah, she is on the track to being GM.
Yeah. It's good for the league.
And I can't say the first ever female GM because there was one before her. I just cannot remember her name. It was quite a while ago, and you have to look it up because I can't. I cannot tell you her name right now. I can't remember it at all. But I believe it was with the Vikings. If I'm probably wrong, but it's fine.
Memorizing front office personnel is just it's a tough ask anyways. So.
All right, we got some fines. Yeah, we love fines. These are for coaches, though. Coaching fines here. Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, he's fined $100,000 and docked 1 OTA practice for 2023. They held practices that were deemed too physical for NFL standards in OTAs. So there's that one. Texans head coach Lovie Smith also fined. He was fined $50,000. They held prohibited 101 O-line, D-line drills during one of their OTA practices. And then finally, Commanders head coach Ron Rivera fined $100,000 as well. And they lost 2 OTA practices for next season. They had excessive contact in their practice drills as well.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, there's 2 sides of this in my brain that like are ever competing over this kind of thing. And one of it is like, all right, I mean, it's like practice and like let coaches establish like the kind of physicality that they want their team. The other part of me is like, look, these guys are just like kind of getting into season shape, and like if the league has to crack down on you for being too physical, like you're probably being too physical. It's not like the league wants to do that. You are likely doing something that the league is like, look, this is OTAs, like we're not trying to get guys down for the season before the season really even starts. So
right, it's like, bro, we're in May.
Right.
When OTAs occur. We're in May.
Yep.
We're like a month after the draft. It's like we don't need to be hitting too hard right now.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple guys that are reporting and not reporting. So Cowboys franchise tight end Dalton Schultz. He did show up for minicamp. He will be participating in minicamp. I'm trying to figure out what tense I should be saying these things in because I don't know what the minicamp schedule is for each team. And I feel like people kept saying, yeah, this guy's going to show up. This guy's going to show up. This guy's not. And it's like, when is minicamp? Is minicamp like coming up this weekend? Or like, is it this week? I have no clue. But yeah, Dalton Schultz is going to be there at minicamp or was there at minicamp if it already happened. The opposite for Bears pass rusher Robert Quinn, not expected to be at minicamp. This was a weird one. He's just working out on his own, they said. So I don't know if he is excused or not, but minicamp is mandatory. So
that is interesting. And it's interesting even more because it's a new coaching staff in there. So it's kind of a peek into how that coaching staff wants to operate.
Yeah, and I'm not sure he fits. Switching back, the Bears are switching back to a 4-3 in Matt Eberflus's defense. Quinn's been in a 3-4 most of his career outside of his Rams days. The retirements, we got a couple. Colts safety Kari Willis. This was a surprising one. He has retired after just 3 seasons in the NFL. I feel like the way that I put it on mine is not the greatest.
I like it.
he is devoting his post-football life to the ministry. That's how someone else. That's how someone else put it. That's why I'm going to take it from them. So
Ooh.
You can read mine if you want.
I like it. Devoting rest of life to spreading the holy gospel. Proselytizing. That's another one. I like to break that out when I can.
That's kind of how he put it in his retirement letter post.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty big blow to the Colts secondary. They're gonna ask Nick Cross to step up real quick season.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, like we've talked about, they lost Rocky Sin too. So their front seven's really good, but that secondary has some question marks for sure.
Is their front seven good though? They have question marks at the second level as well.
I mean,
Darius Leonard coming off ankle surgery, and then he had back surgery just last month.
That's fair. I mean, injuries are always a part of the game, though. I feel like talent-wise, I mean, yeah. I think they're set.
All right. And the bigger retirement here. Buccaneers tight end Rob Gronkowski. We haven't heard anything from him the entire offseason. I feel like it's the longest Gronk has gone without talking or making any major statements.
Or being on WWE or something.
But he is retired for the second time officially now. Patriots 2010-18, and then Tampa Bay 20-21. 4-time Super Bowl champ, won Super Bowls 49, 51, and 53 with the Patriots, Super Bowl 55 with the Bucks. 4-time first-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. He was the 2014 AP Comeback Player of the Year. He was also a part of the Pro Football Hall of Fame All-2010s team and the NFL's 100th anniversary all-time team. Most touchdowns in a season by a tight end. I was telling Logan about this before the show. I'm not sure if it's 18 or 17. Field Yates put out a post with that on it, and it's at 18. Pro Football Reference has him at 17 touchdowns. This was in 2011 season. So I'm not sure which one is right, but 17 and a half sounds good. And then he also has the most 100-yard games by a tight end ever, with 100-yard games for him, which also does not compute either, because the Stats Pro reference says unless it includes playoff. If it includes playoff games, I can see that counting because I only wrote down his regular season stats. But regular season wise, 621 receptions, 9,286 yards, and 92 touchdowns. I think it was never about the yards for Gronk or the receptions. He just scored. That's all he did.
Yeah. He was just a playmaker.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. I didn't like that people were putting it, but they were like, one post I saw, first ballot Hall of Fame, Rob Gronkowski has retired. I'm like, is he though? Is he
Really? You don't think he's first ballot?
First ballot? Are you what?
Oh, I 100% think he's first ballot.
I mean, was he dominant? Yes. But I mean, I'd have to look at what he had to other tight ends, which I don't know if I can. So, Pro Football Reference has Hall of Fame monitor. They have him 6th among tight ends. Let me see if I can find.
Who are the other 6 or who are the other 5 though?
I'd have to look. Hold on. I wonder if does Pro Football Reference. There we go. Oh, see, they do it by just receptions. They don't do it by position. I don't like that. So we're gonna go to some no name site. StatMuse. Statmuse.com. So in terms of receiving yards, he is 5th all time among tight ends. Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, Antonio Gates, Shannon Sharp. Travis Kelce will surpass him this season. He's only 280 yards above Travis Kelce. So there's that. Like I said, the receptions were very low, 621. He is 10th in receptions among tight ends. Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, Antonio Gates, Shannon Sharp, Greg Olsen, Jimmy Graham, Travis Kelce, Ozzie Newsome, and even Zach Ertz are above him. And then touchdowns, he's 3rd. So, like I said, that is where he gets that. Touchdowns, he's 3rd behind Gates and Gonzalez. So, yeah, I mean, he's top 10 in 3 major categories, in the 3 that matter. But I don't know. I don't know about first ballot, because you're thinking of, okay, so we're in 2022. That means 2027 is going to be his first opportunity. Or I guess it'd be 2026 because it's 5 years from their last season. So 2026 would be the first year that he would be eligible. And I mean, granted, I don't know. I don't know if there's anywhere out there that you can. Does anywhere have like? That's what we should make that Pro Football Hall of Fame projector by year. That's what I want to know.
You can do your own simulations with the votes.
I guess here we go. So they are saying 2027 for guys. So it's 2027, right? Because they have on this website, they have guys that just retired this year. 2027 would be their first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
2027, you're looking at Big Ben, who is in right away. Andrew Whitworth got a good shot to go in right away. Alex Mack, I don't think gets in right away. Eric Weddle, I don't think gets in right away. So there are two spots, anyways, that I think one definitely Ben's going in first right away. Whitworth, I think, has a good shot. But obviously, we have other guys that, won't make it. And then we have all the older guys, too, that are still considered, not seniors yet. So they can't get into that senior consideration. But we got guys 2026 eligible. Drew Brees, we know he's in right away. But then you have like Larry Fitzgerald. Jason Witten is going to go in before. He's 1 year before eligible for Gronk. Frank Gore. Greg Olsen is eligible in 2026. He has some better stats than Gronk does. Phillip Rivers. I'm not going to say some of the other guys because I don't think they're going to get in. Edelman, Thomas Davis eventually probably, but why do they have Mikey Potty on here? And then LaShawn McCoy, Marquise Pouncey, he's eligible in 2026, and then 25. Terrell Suggs, Travis Frederick. Ryan Khalil is eligible in 2025? I thought he was done a while ago. Eli is 2025. He's going in. Marshawn Lynch is 2025. Joe Staley, Earl Thomas, Marshall Yonda, Luke Kuechly. So that 2025, I think that's where we could see some players get pushed. That's a good class. Kuechly, Marshall Yonda, Earl Thomas, Joe Staley, Marshawn Lynch, Eli, Darren Sproles, Terrell Suggs. Not sure about Demaryius Thomas. We had that discussion before. 2024 isn't that great, but we do have Julius Peppers, Antonio Gates, Haloti Nada. I think there's an interesting case to be made for Mr. Brandon Marshall. 23 next year. We have Chris Johnson. 23 doesn't look that great. James Harrison. You want your boy Kuhn to get in.
Hey, look, man.
Greatest fullback ever.
Pound for pound. You put him in you stack them up with the other fullbacks.
Put him side by side to Moose Johnson. But yeah, 23, we got Darrelle Revis, Dwight Freeney, Jari Evans, I think, has a good shot, and then Joe Thomas. So yeah, I mean, those guys combined with the older guys that have been waiting for a while. You look at Robert Mathis, Mario Williams, but Steve Smith Sr., Nick Mangold, Andre Johnson, who's been a finalist, DeMarcus Ware, who's been a finalist. You look at other guys, Jared Allen, 2-time finalist. Reggie Wayne, 3-time finalist. Did he get in this? I don't know if this updated for the class this year. Patrick Willis, 1-time finalist. Got other guys. Jordan Gross, I think, was pretty good. Asante Samuel. Vontae Leach. Sean Merriman. Jeff Saturday, I think, deserves a shot. Rondé Barber, 2-time finalist. Chad Johnson, I think, has a good shot. Hines Ward. Let's see. Who else we got? Javon Curse, potentially. Jamal Lewis. He's not like all time, but Torrey Holt, 3-time finalist. Rodney Harrison, Lorenzo Neal, Willie Anderson, 1-time finalist. Sean Alexander, people don't know this. Sean Alexander actually has fantastic career numbers. Zach Thomas, 3-time finalist there. Steve McNair, Priest Holmes, Tiki Barber, Rod Smith, Mike Allstott, Jimmy Smith.
But I'm taking Gronk over at least half these guys.
Eddie George, Darren Woodson. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of guys that like have been waiting, and I feel like we never see like, because the max is 8, but that includes 1 senior and 1 contributor, so your max is 6 modern era guys, and I don't think we've seen 6 that are like very modern, like 2000s and up guys. All 6 of them. So yeah, I just think there's gonna be too many guys that are there. Yeah, to be third in tight end touchdowns, cool. But the receptions thing was a big knock for me, being only 10th, and he was only 5th in yards in terms of tight ends, when we didn't really see the tight end position tick up until the 2000s in terms of receiving.
I think that when you factor in his physicality, what he brought in the run game, how important he was to those Patriots teams, I mean, he was just a matchup nightmare. Like, you couldn't put a small. I think that also kind of what he has helped develop the tight end position as. I think you have to put him in the conversation as one of the best tight ends ever.
I'm not saying that he isn't.
No, I know. You're arguing the first ballot.
Yeah.
Type. I think that when you just kind of take it all together, I think he belongs in that conversation. Because I'm not putting that many people at tight end over him. And I think what he brought to the team and also kind of the story of the NFL from whenever he was drafted, like 2010 to 2021-ish, I think he's definitely in the conversation for that first ballot.
I'd probably agree. He may end up being a finalist that year, but I just do not think, like I said, there's always that effect of, well, this guy's been waiting for so long, and then it's like, yeah, we'll put him in this year. I feel like one of those kind of guys sneaks in every couple of years. And like I said, with one, maybe two out of the 6 possible modern spots already locked, with Roethlisberger and Whitworth potentially getting the other one, leaves only 4 spots. Granted, that's kind of a lot, but they don't have to put 6 in. They can put less. They can put, I think the minimum's 5 total. So they can put 3 modern era guys in if they wanted to. So, but yeah, it was funny. Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, he said it wouldn't surprise him if Tom calls him up during the season to come back and Rob answers. So
it wouldn't surprise me if he's doing this just to get out of training camp and then he signs week 1.
Yeah, it said at the end of the quote, it said, I wouldn't be surprised if Rob comes back during the season or next season. You talk about 2023. I mean, he did it before. He skipped 2019 and came back with the Bucs in 2020. So he's capable of it anyways. But let's move on. We've been dragging along here quite a while. Giants linebacker Justin Hilliard suspended the first 2 games of the season for PEDs. Good special teams player for them. In-depth linebacker. The Steelers got some business done. They signed safety Minka Fitzpatrick, 4 years, $73.6 million. Extension, $36 million guaranteed. If you're Mr. Bates in Cincinnati, you're loving it. And there was another one too. Who was the other safety that's looking to get paid right now? I thought there was one other guy.
Oh yeah, who is it?
Jordan Poyer's looking to get paid in Buffalo, but he wasn't the other guy I was thinking about. There was another one. Regardless, nice deal. Steelers had to get it done. They got it done, locked him up. Now they can focus all their efforts to Deontay Johnson. I was kind of surprised about the guaranteed money. Only half of the deal is guaranteed, but that's what the Steelers do. They guarantee your first 2 years, and that's it.
Way to do it.
The Patriots got some receiver help. They signed Saints wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey to a 1-year deal. See if he can crack the roster or not. I mean, why wouldn't he be able to? Considering what the Patriots have receiver outside of Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers. I mean,
they have a lot of volume, right? Like, and they drafted Tyquan Thornton, but yeah.
The Eagles. I love this. I love both my two team signings. The Eagles signed 49er safety Jaquiski Tart to a 1-year deal. Love it. We needed to get some safety help after Rodney McLeod was let to go to Indianapolis. They needed some help behind Kayvon Wallace and Anthony Harris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Christy Tart was a guy I was hoping for my Packers as kind of a third safety sub-package depth guy. But
the Steelers, they hosted Bengals defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi for a visit, and they signed him today. So quick turnaround for Larry. Visited the Jets last week, but Pittsburgh didn't let him leave. I think it's a great deal for them. A guy that had, 7 sacks last year for Cincinnati, stays in the division and fills a need with the Stephon Tuitt retirement. It allows DeMarvin Leal to develop more and not have to have a massive load in his first year. And then also defensive line wise, the Bears, they signed Falcons nose tackle Mike Pennell. I didn't even know he was on the Falcons last year. To be honest, I haven't heard from him in a little bit. He's not even close to what he was when he played for Green Bay. So, yeah. But he's back in the division. He gets to play against the Packers.
I'm not that worried.
Elkton's scared, I think. Elkton's scared. The Lions, they signed former Packers wide receiver Devin Funchess. He's going to switch to tight end, give them some help behind TJ Hawkinson there.
Yeah, one of my delusional friends in my fantasy football league thought that was going to be our secret weapon, bringing back Devin Funchess to the roster.
Yeah. Yeah. He is he's now a tight end.
Yeah.
So, and he also will get to play against the Packers.
Again, I'm not sweating it a whole
lot. Someone who will not be playing against the Packers, at least right now, anyways. The Bears, in order to make room on the roster for Mike Pennell, they released linebacker Jeremiah Atalchu. The only reason I put that on, I thought that was a noticeable move. Atalchu is pretty decent depth edge rusher if you can get him. Notably, when he was with the Chargers, had his best seasons there. But anyone in a 3-4 that needs some depth outside linebacker help, definitely an option. Okay. We are into the 8th round, second to last division here. The AFC North, I got my Steelers stuff on, black and gold background, so we're living it up. Starting off, Ravens, 14th overall. They took safety Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame. Steelers were up next. They took quarterback Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh, number 20. Ravens got back in the first round with the Marquise Brown trade, and they drafted center Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, 25th overall. The Bengals finished up in the first round, safety Daxton Hill, Michigan, 31st overall. And the Browns, because of the Deshaun Watson trade, they did not have a pick till the third round, taking corner Martin Emerson, Mississippi State, 68th overall. So let's start off with Baltimore. like I said, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum in the first. Second round, edge rusher David Ojabo, Michigan, 45th overall. Third round, defensive tackle Travis Jones, UConn, 76th. Fourth round, 6 picks. I remember I was watching the draft and they were like, yeah, the Ravens have 6 picks today in the fourth. They're like, they're not going to use them all. And then they did. They used all 6 of their fourth round selections. Offensive tackle Daniel Fa'alele, Minnesota, 110. Corner Jalen Armour Davis, Alabama, 119. Tight end Charlie Kolar, Iowa State, number 128. Punter Jordan Stout, Penn State, number 130. Tight end Isaiah Likely, Coastal Carolina, number 139. Corner Demarius Williams, Houston, number 141. No 5th round pick. And then their last pick, their 6th round, running back Tyler Beatty, Missouri, number 196, no 7s. You go ahead because I'm going to go first with the Steelers next.
Sounds good. And I'll keep it short because I'm not sure there's much else to say about this draft. It was the one that quite a lot of people loved, and I'm no different. Their first 4 picks, they got guys who I felt were first-round talents. So you hit on those guys, and I think they're all system fits too, at positions of need. So it really just is kind of crushing the draft in terms of strategy. Now, obviously, they have to develop these guys, but the Ravens are good at developing talent. I especially like the Ojabo pick because he just feels like the next Ravens edge rusher who has those physical traits, is a little raw, but they can develop him into a really quality starter. The tight ends that they drafted in the mid rounds, their system uses a lot of tight end sets, multiple tight end sets. And I think they are going to use both of those guys in different ways because they bring different things to the table. I give it an A. I give this an A draft because they kind of just, again, they got really good value, hit positions of need, and kind of just let the draft come to them.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. It's always tough when you're talking about your own division.
Yeah.
You like another team's draft, and you're like, damn, dude, like they're going to be a lot better because of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what do you say? The first 5?
First 4.
I like the first 5.
Well, I liked the Fa'alele pick too. I just said that the first 4 to me were first round talents. So
okay. Yeah. I mean, the Ojabo thing, I mean, they're gonna get him back in December, and I mean, he might produce 2 or 3 sacks in your last 4 games, and that's going to be good enough to propel him to a decent role in the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but because Lamar Jackson is not an elite quarterback. God, let me tell you, I love Louis Riddick. I do. I love him, but I can't take him. He keeps posting that Lamar deserves money. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, he's not an elite quarterback. He's not. We've seen what his peak is. He's not. But anyways, back to the draft. So yeah, they got the Kyle Hamilton thing was weird, I thought, though. They already had good safeties. Chuck Clark, they signed Marcus Williams in free agency. They had Brandon Stevens, and then they also liked Geno Stone. They have Tony Jefferson too. So I didn't really see a need, and no one will know except for the people in that draft room, but I kind of want to know if they were scrambling after the Eagles traded up in front and took Jordan Davis, who we mocked to the Ravens a couple times. I thought that was a perfect fit, but yeah, it would have been interesting to know if they were like, crap, dude, like they took our pick. And they just went with the next best guy on their board. But anyways, yeah, Kyle Hamilton was good. It was weird though too with him where his value was, because early on we heard, bro, this guy's a top 5 guy. He's gonna be like the first defender off the board, or whatever, the first defensive back off the board. He's top 5 locked. Then he goes through the draft process, pre-draft process, combine, pro day, and it's like, dude, this guy's slow. His hips aren't good enough, and we're moving him down the board. So it might have scared some teams off. But they got good value, I thought. Linderbaum, love it. Center for the next 10 years for them. Actually, yeah, okay. No, they do have Met Center, okay. I couldn't remember if it was him or another person that someone drafted some other person and they were like, yeah, he's gonna play guard instead. But yeah, Ojabo, I already mentioned him. Travis Jones, I mean, bro, Michael Pierce has been injured and he's coming back from an injury. Yeah, I mean, I loved Travis Jones in the 3rd round. I was hoping that maybe the Steelers could have got him because we needed to get younger at nose with Alu getting a lot older now. Oh yeah, Fa'alele got some insurance for Ronnie Stanley because he wasn't the same last year after coming off ankle injury the last 2 seasons. So that's some insurance there. And then love Jordan Stout. They needed a new punter. Sam Cook retiring after 16 seasons. Stout had the biggest leg of all the punters, I think, in the draft. He was also the first punter taken, I believe, right? I think so.
Yes. Yep.
So they jumped on that early with their fourth round pick. And then Beatty is whatever at running back late. I wasn't too high on the corners. I didn't know too much about Demarion Williams out of Houston. Jalen Armour Davis, he's a slot guy, I believe. The tight ends, though, that was my knock on this draft, was the tight ends. One, I was like, okay, it makes sense. They need a better backup to Mark Andrews, want more pass catching options for Lamar Jackson, even though he's not an elite throwing quarterback. But then they went and got 2. Isaiah Likely being the second one they drafted after Kolar. And I didn't understand because they're going to keep Nick Boyle, their best blocking tight end that they have. And I was reading the Ravens 53-man projection on ESPN today, and it said they're keeping 4. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to. They draft. I mean, if you're drafting guys in the 4th round, you're going to keep them. 6th or 7th, I can see, maybe cutting a guy, putting him on practice squad. But I feel like 5th and up, you have to keep him on the 53.
Yeah. I mean, riding 4 tight ends isn't super uncommon, especially for a ground dominant team like the Ravens. I know the Packers have done it in the past. And my thing with the 2 tight end selections is that they're 2 different guys completely. Cole are more of your traditional inline blocking tight end who gives you some receiving upside, red zone ability, and likely can be your kind of receiving mismatch guy. So that's why I didn't hate it, but I can understand in the mid rounds where if you're drafting your tight end 4, you could probably wait until the 7th for that.
Yeah. My thing is they could have drafted off-ball linebacker was where I thought they needed help beside Patrick Queen. They have a lot of guys. I loved what they did in undrafted free agency at that spot to help. They got Jacoby McLean, Diego Fagot, and Josh Ross. All 3 fantastic options. McLean from Auburn, Fagot from Navy, and Josh Ross from Michigan. So I really like that, but no receivers either was also a big issue for me. Their receiver room is absolutely terrible. Outside of Rashad Bateman. Now, I love Tylan Wallace. I was high on him last year coming out of Oklahoma State. He didn't do much in his first year. But Devin Duvernay has not been – he's been a return guy most of his career. And Prochet, everyone, when he got drafted by the Ravens, they were like, bro, Prochet is the gem. He is the steal of this draft. And he hasn't done much. So those 2 with upgraded roles, we'll see. I think they got to sign a veteran at this point. I think I read on that projection there's 15 career starts in their whole entire wide receiver room. And I believe all of them are Bateman. So,
yeah. I think the decision-making tells you a lot about how they feel and trust Rashad Bateman. Whether that's deserved or not, we'll see. I do think he can be a number 1. I don't know if he can be a number 1 in 2022. So, yeah, it will be interesting.
Yeah. A lot of guys out there still. Julio, T.Y. Hilton, and such. But yeah, I am going to go A-. Talking myself through the 2 knocks that I had, the double tight ends and the no receivers drafted, that knocks me down a little bit for. So, yeah. Okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I was absolutely ecstatic. If you go back, go to our archives, go to the special shows category, watch our first round coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft. Watch what I did whenever the Steelers were up and they selected Kenny Pickett. My Lord, it was quite a fiasco. But yes, round 1, quarterback Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh, 20th overall. Round 2, wide receiver George Pickens, Georgia, 52. Third round, D tackle DeMarvin Leal, Texas A&M, 84. Fourth round, wide receiver Calvin Austin, the third, Memphis, 138. Didn't have a 5th round. 6th round, tight end Connor Hayward, Michigan State, 208. And then 2 7th rounders, linebacker Mark Robinson, Ole Miss, 225. And quarterback Chris Oladokin, South Dakota State, 241. Dude, I mean, Kenny Pickett is the dude. That they had to do it. They had all of the quarterbacks available, and everyone all week they were like, bro, Malik Willis to the Steelers, whether they got to trade up for him or not. Malik Willis is going to Pittsburgh. And I was like, no. I want Kenny Pickett. He is the more pro-ready guy. Does he have lesser upside? Maybe. Does he have 3 or 4 years of starting experience at the Division I FBS level? Yes, he does. And he played in a Power 5 conference. So I love it. I think he is more mobile than what people think. As we saw in the bowl game, the fake slide. So he can run if he needs to and be mobile and run the RPO stuff that Matt Canada wants to run. Do I think he starts week 1? Probably not. I mean, would I be shocked if he did? No. I think he can definitely beat out Mitch Trubisky for the week 1 job. It's just getting the offense down and showing off what he's got. Love George Pickens. Saw him many times when I was at Georgia. I mean, he's a jump ball guy. He's big. And I think he's going to fit in nicely with Claypool and Deontay Johnson. I think it's very good that they got him and what he does well, because it allows Deontay to slide back inside where he's more potent, is in the slot. And that'll put Claypool and Pickens on the outside and Johnson in the slot. I think that's a formidable trio there at receiver. The Calvin Austin thing, I was like, is whatever. He's going to be a good gadget guy for Canada to use. He's going to be available in the return game. Again, I don't know why they don't list him in as a returner right now. They have Gunnar Olszewski, who they signed in free agency there, but it's okay. I think Calvin Austin could eventually be your return guy, whether he's on the practice squad this year or not. DeMarvin Leal, I thought was good. He was a guy last year that was hyped up very high and did not have the senior season that he thought he was going to at A&M. And then the rest of them, Connor Hayward, it was interesting. I read the Steelers 53 projection, and Connor Hayward has been working out with the tight ends. And, I listed him as fullback on our script because that's what he played at Michigan State, but he's a fullback tight end hybrid. And apparently there is going to be room on the roster for him and Derek Watt, which many people, including myself, did not originally think there would be. Mark Robinson, I didn't really notice him at Ole Miss too much. I noticed his teammate Chance Campbell more, who went undrafted, I believe. And then Chris Oladokin, developmental quarterback, was decent at South Dakota State, but I don't think it was anything special.
Yeah, so I did like your Steelers draft. I especially like the wide receiver picks. I think that for whatever reason, the Steelers are just really good at drafting and developing wide receivers. And their room already had 2 established good guys, but I mean, they needed depth. They needed a wide receiver 3, and they needed someone to replace James Washington. I think they did it with both, and I think George Pickens is more than a wide receiver 3. I think he can be a high-end wide receiver 2. And people don't realize, and the reason why I love George Pickens during the draft process is he separates really well for his size. So he's a big-bodied receiver. He can do the jump ball stuff, but he's a smooth mover for how big he is. And I liked that fit. Like DeMarvin Leal, I think he's a guy that in the Steelers system, they can develop to be productive on that front. I don't think it matters for them that he's kind of a tweener. I think they'll sort it out. The only thing for me is Kenny Pickett, and here's why. It's not that about Kenny Pickett it's himself, it's how interestingly the draft played out. So Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken off the board at 20, right? 20 is where the Steelers were taking.
Yep.
The next QB to go off wasn't until Desmond Ridder, right? At 73. So I read that one of two ways. One, the league was high on Kenny Pickett all along over the rest of the other QBs in the crop, as were the Steelers, which is why he went first overall and why the other guys slid. Or the league just wasn't high on this class at all, and the Steelers kind of reached for their guy. So only time will tell how that plays out, and we'll never know that because that's just each team probably has their perspective on how that went. And I think Kenny Pickett is a great fit for Pittsburgh, which is why, again, I still love this draft, because not only do you have the really awesome tie with him going to Pitt, which, I always like that when that happens, like you get, a Wisconsin guy going to Green Bay or what have you. But I think that you're absolutely right in that he was the most pro-ready quarterback. And this Steelers team is still ready to compete right now. They dragged Ben Roethlisberger to the playoffs when he was not only past his prime, but probably should have retired. Mike Tomlin, to me, is the greatest coach in the league. I think his consistency, being able to win. So again, yeah, I like the fit. It's just, for me, how does the rest of the league view him? And what is the long-term upside with Kenny Pickett? But only time will tell with that. And like I said, I think they surrounded him with good weapons in this draft. The Steelers are a complete team, man. And I think that the only thing really that they really need to address is kind of the O-line a little bit. But again, this is one of the best divisions in football for a reason, because I feel like people are sleeping on the Steelers. And like I said, they were able to make the playoffs with a well past his prime Big Ben. So they got a couple of young guns in there with Trubisky and Pickett. I like it. I like their odds to repeat again in the playoffs, even if in a tough division.
Yeah, and my thing to your point about Kenny Pickett, the Steelers knew Kenny Pickett better than any team in the league. So I think if they didn't like what they saw day in and day out being in the same exact building, I think they would have went in a different direction, whether that be another position or another quarterback at 20. And the fact that they did go with Pickett, I think that said something about him and the Steelers there. But yeah, my knocks before we get to grades on this draft. They did add some in free agency to the O-line. Mason Cole, James Daniels comes over. They are solidified in two of the starting spots. Cole at center, Daniels at right guard. The left guard spot's open. Still not so sold on the tackles yet, but we'll see. They're both younger guys. Chuck Okorafor is on his second contract, though, so we'll see. A couple other things that I didn't necessarily no, there was just one other thing I didn't really like. No running backs drafted. I thought that was not a good thing, because yes, Najee Harris is the dude, They have drafted Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland the last 2 years, but they haven't been effective. Granted, last year, I know Najee, we saw it many times with Najee. It is just very tough to run behind a subpar O line.
Mm-hmm.
But Benny Snell has been his rookie year, he was on the team that had a good O line. And McFarland wasn't. So, yeah, we'll see if they add any veterans or not. I don't know many that are out there that are decent at this point, but there's always cuts. And we'll have to see.
JC Treader is the only guy, unless I missed him signing somewhere. I'm shocked that JC Treader hasn't found a home yet.
Yeah, him, Chris's guy, Eric Fisher is still out there. I think that could be an option in terms of tackle depth. But yeah. I am biased, but I am going to give the Steelers a B+.
I'm concurrence right there. I think it's a solid B+. I really like their first 4 picks. Really like the fit. We kind of touched on it. Would have liked to see more O-line, for sure, especially in the later rounds, because you never know when maybe one of those guys hits or you can develop them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion you should always take some O-line in each draft, just because it's such a valuable commodity. But like I said, love the fits, and I think it does help them compete right now.
Another thing I forgot to mention was outside linebacker. No picks at that position either. Might have been a misread for them. Very thin behind Watt and Highsmith. Tuska and Avery are the guys you're hoping work out. But luckily for them, like I said, I didn't know too many running backs that are quality still available. There are guys at pass rusher still available. Justin Houston, JPP, guys like that can give you, 5, 6, 7 sacks. So, okay, the AFC champions, Cincinnati Bengals. First round, Daxton Hill, safety, Michigan, 31st. Second, corner Cam Taylor Britt, Nebraska, 60th. Third round, pass rusher, edge Zachary Carter, Florida, number 95. Fourth round, guard Cordell Volson, North Dakota State, number 136. Fifth round, safety Tyson Anderson, Toledo, number 166. Didn't have a sixth rounder. And then seventh round, edge rusher Jeffrey Gunter, Coastal Carolina, 252. You're up.
I like this draft because the way I've been labeling it is the keep Eli Apple off the field at all costs strategy. And I like it. I like it when you look at this Bengals team. They don't have a whole lot of holes except that kind of secondary position. And I think that Daxton Hill, I know a lot of people have been kind of talking about him as like he's a versatile enough guy where you could play him at quarterback. You can play him in the slot. You can play him at safety. You can kind of play him all over. So I like that. And I like Cam Taylor Britt. And I think both of those guys combined will either hit enough to where they don't need to use Eli Apple, especially in high pressure situations. So I like that. Didn't like the Zachary Carter pick. Like I said, I'm not huge on kind of tweeners because they either have to gain weight or lose it. And the positions that they played at college, they're usually not going to play in the NFL because of their tweener status. And I kind of like some of the guys they have on the roster anyways, like Cam Sample, who they drafted out of Tulane last year. So I thought they could have gotten better value there, but I like Cordell Volson, depth piece for that O-line that they have just continued to help renovate, which is a really scary proposition for a team that was so good in passing last year. So liked that. Tyson Anderson also really liked that. Hyper athlete. Just throw a dart at that and, even if he's only a special teamer who's hyper athletic, like he still provides value. Jeffrey Gunter, I thought that's probably where he'd go. So it's kind of a wash. I'd give this kind of a solid B. I like the strategy, which is why I'm giving it a B. Even if I think kind of Cam Taylor-Britt was kind of a reach, in my opinion, even if I wasn't the highest on Daxton Hill, and part of that is because a lot of people in the Packers community wanted him, and I did not want us to draft safety 3 because I already like our secondary. And part of it's also because I just can't get rid of the mental image of the George Pickens highlight where he just absolutely buries Daxton Hill in the run game on the boundary. But, I think he's a great fit for them. And like I said, I think it's good that they addressed the secondary.
Yeah, I would probably go a little lower and B minus. I was not that high on Daxton Hill. He is listed as corner on the depth chart, behind Eli Apple. Eli is still slated in a starting spot right now, opposite of Chidobe Awuzie. But yeah, I didn't know too much about Cam Taylor-Britt, even being a Big Ten guy. That's Big Ten West, and I watch Penn State, so they play all the Big Ten East teams. So I didn't really get to see too much of Cam Taylor-Britt or notice him. Hate the Zachary Carter thing. When we were at the combine, we were talking about the combine. Zachary Carter was on the bottom of almost every testing score. So to go in the 3rd round and use a premium pick on a guy that tested very, very poorly, I can't justify that. So hate that selection. Volson, yeah, I agree. He's pretty good. Their guard tackle versatility, I believe.
Yep.
I think he played tackle at North Dakota State.
Yeah, he did.
And I didn't know too much about Anderson. Jeffrey Gunter, though, he's my guy. I watched a lot of Coastal Carolina. Love Jeffrey Gunter. I don't know if he makes the roster or not because they're pretty full at defensive end. But yeah, the Zachary Carter thing too. Also, you were talking about tweener. I mean, they're listing him as the defensive end at 285. I'm like, good Lord. I already said he tested at the bottom of all the ends. How is he going to be fast enough to get around the edge at 285?
Well, and that's just it. Like when you're a tweener, you kind of have to be athletic because then it kind of suggests that you at least have the potential to be the exception to the rule, right? If you're kind of tweener and you're not a great athlete, like I just don't see the role for you.
Yeah, I think my B minus knock was because of the Carter thing mostly. But also there were, I always like to look at positions that I think they could have addressed in the later rounds. And one was wide receiver. Now, people are probably like, what do you mean wide receiver? The Bengals have a great wide receiver core, but they don't. They have a great top three. Yeah. But 4, 5, and 6, you don't have much. You have your return guy in Trent Taylor. And then Mike Thomas and Stanley Morgan. So, there are guys that they have, though. Another coastal guy that I love, Javon Hiley. They signed him in undrafted free agency. They also have, I know he was mentioned in the 53 projection at wide receiver, Kwame Lassiter from Kansas, who was very good at Kansas. Two guys that I think could possibly make the roster as the 5th and 6th receivers. They signed Puka Williams too, who was not a receiver at Kansas, but he's listed as a receiver for the Bengals, but he played running back at Kansas. So we'll see if he can play receiver. I doubt Puka makes the roster, but yeah, Hiley though, and then Laster, I think, are your guys that will need to step up unless they sign some other person. But see, they're in a different situation. The Ravens need like top 3 help. The Bengals, where they need depth, you're not going to sign a Julio or T.Y. Hilton to be your 4th. So I'm not sure really where they're going to look to get depth unless they wait until cuts.
Yeah. I mean, I could see T.Y. maybe if he wants to chase a ring and like he's cool with being like kind of on a vet minimum thing. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like, I think losing Auden Tate was kind of a bigger deal than people think. Cause I mean, he was that 4th guy to where you're like, okay, they're like set. Yeah. Like you don't even have to worry about depth at that point. But yeah, I totally agree.
All righty. And we are on to the Cleveland Browns. So we will factor in the Deshaun Watson trade because they were these year's picks and it happened this year. So 1st round, 2nd round, nothing because of Watson. 3rd round, 3 picks. Corner Martin Emerson, Mississippi State, 68th. Edge rusher Alex Wright, UAB, 78th. Wide receiver David Bell, Purdue, 99th. 4th round, 2 picks. Edge rusher Perry and Winfrey, Oklahoma, number 108. Actually, D tackle, right? D tackle, not edge. Kicker Cade York, LSU, 124. 5th round, running back Jerome Ford, Cincinnati, number 156. 6th round, wide receiver Mike Woods, II, Oklahoma, number 202. 2 7th rounders, edge Isaiah Thomas, Oklahoma, 223. And center Dawson Deaton, Texas Tech, 246. Really liked the Browns' top picks, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Martin Emerson, pretty decent. He's going to give them an option in the slot specifically. 6'2", 200 there. So pretty big. But yeah, I like that. But the guys I really liked, Alex Wright, David Bell. Love those 2 guys. Alex Wright, fantastic guy out of UAB. Gotta give Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney some help. They really were looking for a lot of depth after, Curtis Weaver didn't really work out as a 3rd round pick 2 years ago. And then they traded for Chase Winovich. So we'll see how he does in a 4-3, going back to his Michigan days. 4-3 there. And David Bell. I mean, David Bell was probably one of the more underrated receivers in the draft, ultra productive at Purdue. I think he's going to be able to complement Amari Cooper and push Donovan Peoples-Jones for the wide receiver 2 spot. Because I'm not so sold on Peoples-Jones as the wide receiver 2. Winfrey, I was so on. Cade York, pretty big leg. We'll see if it works out. I think the Browns saw what Evan McPherson did last year as a rookie, and they were like, we want one of those too. So they went and got a kicker in the 4th round. They've had kicker issues in the past. We'll see if Cade can get it done. The Jerome Ford thing was questionable for me. I didn't know why they needed to do it. They just re-signed Dearness Johnson. Well, he was on his RFA tender at the draft, but after the draft, just a couple weeks ago, they re-signed him on a 1-year deal. And they had someone else too. They only go 4 deep on ESPN's depth chart, but they also had another. Did they list him at wide receiver? No. The guy they drafted last year, I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. Demetrius Felton.
Yep.
Demetric Felton, yeah. Wide receiver, running back, wide receiver hybrid. So, yeah, I just didn't see a need. I absolutely love Jerome Ford, but the fit was not great for me. And then I didn't really know too much about Woods or Deaton. Saw Isaiah Thomas a little bit at Oklahoma. Wasn't that impressed. I liked his teammate who was on the opposite side of him. Can't remember name right now. But Nick Benito, yeah. I love Nick Benito a lot better than Isaiah Thomas. So. I'll give my grade at the end.
All right. I thought this was I thought it was an okay draft. I agree with you. I kind of like the top picks. They definitely have some question marks in the secondary. I like Martin Emerson. Alex Wright, another guy I was high on. David Bell. David Bell's interesting because really productive. I agree. I think he became very underrated because of his combine performance. And my thing is like, he's still young. Like, he still has time to become more athletic, and you get him in a room and on a NFL plan, he can become more athletic.
Size too, 6'2", 205.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So I like that fit too. And I actually really did like the Perrion Winfrey pick. I was higher on Perrion Winfrey. I thought he fell a little more than I think he should have. I think he can be that guy who's not much of a run stuffer, but can create some havoc in and around the middle of that D-line. I think you put him on a D-line with Myles Garrett. I think that kind of guy can be useful. But the rest of the class, I just really didn't understand. The Jerome Ford pick, in my opinion, was just a waste. And like you said, I really like Jerome Ford too. But why are you drafting your running back 4 at best at pick 156? Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you're talking about a guy who might not make the roster just because you have so much volume there. Yeah, don't know anything about Mike Woods, to be honest. I didn't come across him at all in the pre-draft process. Isaiah Thomas, I think he's fine there, but yeah, also didn't know anything about Dawson Deaton. Yeah. And I mean, if we're factoring what?
You didn't mention Cade York.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, kickers matter too. I mean, if he can be Evan McPherson, like, sure, yeah, it was a great pick. But I mean, I don't know. I guess time will tell. Because Evan McPherson probably could have been worth more than where he was drafted at with how impactful he was for the Bengals. But
yeah, York went a whole round before him.
Right, yeah. But we'll see if Cade York can be that kind of
Yeah,
impact got.
I think the difference you'll see in York versus McPherson is very accurate. Where York has a bigger leg, can make longer kicks.
Mm.
But we'll have to see if the accuracy is there with the leg.
Yeah. And for me, if we're factoring in the Deshaun Watson trade on June 21st, 2022, it's not a great look. You're talking about trading away so much for a guy who, as of right now, and I don't think this is going to happen, but the fact that it could tells me that it's way too much of a risk to have taken. You're trading so much for a guy who might not ever play a snap for your team. I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. I think that the NFL is going to choose talent over maybe whatever kind of image issues might be involved with keeping Deshaun Watson in the league. But the fact that it could happen is just tough. And the fact that you're going to probably miss him for at least a big enough portion of this year to where you're not going to be competitive. And I think Browns fans have kind of turned, for me, at least in my interactions on Twitter, have kind of turned into one of the most delusional fan bases in the league right now. I understand that the Browns have a pretty talented roster, but there's way too many holes than they think they don't have to think that somehow Jacoby Brissett could lead this team to the playoffs. Just not going to happen. Not going to happen in any way, shape, or form, especially in that division. So for me right now, I give it kind of a C+ because if I'm just looking at this draft itself, I liked what they did at the top. But when you factor in everything else they did kind of in the offseason, and again, we brought it up, I think not re-signing J.C. Treader, I would have rather paid J.C. Treader than Jadeveon Clowney, especially to keep that really strong O-line together. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about the Browns just in general right now.
Yeah, they believe in Nick Harris at center, who they drafted, so they like him there. But I can't get my mind off of putting him at a B. The Deshaun thing sways me up. Whether whether he's out for 6, 8, or the whole season, he's gonna be back eventually. And whether that's in 2023 or earlier, I think it's enough to have an elite guy. Granted, that's the thing. We don't know what it was with Houston. Was it Deshaun that brought the Texans to the playoffs in a crap division under a crap head coach in Bill O'Brien? Or was it J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and the Texans defense that was very good in the 2010s?
Yeah. Well, my thing is that, Deshaun Watson, elite player, top 5 quarterback, the last time we saw him, if he gets suspended for a full year, it's going to be 3 seasons out of football.
Yeah.
Again, a major risk.
Yeah. But I can't get my head off of B. Love Alex Wright. Love David Bell. Kate York is a plus pick for me. The Jerome Ford thing, if I keep mentioning these, I might as well do a promo for ESPN at this point. The 53 and the 53 projection, the write up on the running backs for Cleveland was, Jerome Ford pick was questionable, but they put Jerome Ford in on the final 53 because their thought, I don't remember who wrote that one, because I think every beat reporter for each team wrote the thing. So whoever it is for ESPN for Cleveland. But the running backs, though, they were like, well, yeah, it was weird because they just signed Dearness Johnson to another 1-year deal. But if a running back needy team, training camp, they could trade Dearness Johnson for a decent price, I think, with what we've seen from Dearness Johnson. 5th, 6th round pick you could possibly get for him.
Yeah.
So, but with that potentially becoming the 3rd running back, and RB2 in the future, I think Chubb will be a lifer on Cleveland. Kareem Hunt's going to be gone after the next couple of seasons, and we could see Jerome Ford be the RB2 eventually. But yeah, B, the Deshaun Watson thing moves it up to a B for me with their other first 6 picks there. So that is the show for today. Next week, we will be recapping the USFL playoff games and previewing the USFL championship. And then we will have our final segment of the 8th round with the AFC West. Apologies for the long show today. Had a lot of stuff to get through. Adding another extra day too. We wouldn't have had the Gronk thing until next week had we not added the extra day, but schedules are schedules. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Thank you, Logan.